was my understanding.
You don't have the executive team.
No.
Hi, Britt. I see you online. Can you confirm you can hear us from in the room?
I can hear you.
Awesome. Thank you.
Welcome.
John's wondering about the video quality.
It actually looks really good.
Great news. Thank you.
Yeah.
Are we okay to get started? Okay. Hello, everyone. Can you hear me okay? I'd like to call the meeting to order on Tuesday, June 17th at 7 p.m. Macy, take the roll call.
Mayor Pro Tem Sterling,
Here.
Trustee Corvalon,
Here.
Trustee Larson,
Here.
Trustee Maris,
Here.
Trustee Miller,
Here.
and Trustee Ty.
Here.
Thank you. I would like to note for the record that Mayor Billy is absent this evening.
Thank you so much, Macy. Okay, first up is the consent agenda. Are there any questions? Anybody want to make a motion?
Motion to approve the consent agenda. Second.
Macy?
Mayor Pro Tem Sterling,
Yes.
Trustee Larson,
Yes.
Trustee Maris,
Yes.
Trustee Ty,
Yes.
Trustee Corvalon,
Yes.
and Trustee Miller.
Yes.
Thank you. The motion's approved.
All right, thank you, everyone. Now we're on to staff reports. Do we have any questions for John or the town staff? No? We're in summer mode, says Trustee Larson. We're in summer mode. I do have a few questions. I don't think Sergeant Mendez is not on. Those are new charts that she dropped in. Any context for those? Because I'm not quite sure what jurisdiction 2, 3, 4 stand for.
I do not know the answer to that, but I'll find out.
Okay, yeah, if it's important information, I don't know if anybody else was able to extrapolate what they meant. Yeah, I think it's the first time we've seen those charts, so I just want to make sure we're interpreting the information the way she intends them. And it's just the first couple of charts on her, in her report. Any movement on the Safer Main Streets or the SMS or tips?
We are working on it. I think that we are very close to having the Uniform Act stuff done, and then we're being told we'll be out to grant or to bid still this summer, and we can get that work moving, and it should be good.
Okay,
But that's kind of what we're stuck on is the temporary easements.
okay, so it's still looking like summer as in like July,
Yeah,
not like,
that's what my last update was. We're meeting them weekly now, so hopefully,
okay,
there's a grant update scheduled in July, and hopefully that'll be a good change of pace for us.
okay, fabulous.
Sorry, Nicole. I
yep.
think that these average response times, I think instead of jurisdiction, it's supposed to be like priority number 2, priority number 3, like level of priority.
Yeah,
That's what it's been in the past, so I'm not sure if they use the word jurisdiction in that.
And that's
row.
what was throwing me for a loop
Yeah.
is I'd have no idea what jurisdiction.
But I wonder if they just meant priority level.
Yeah.
Worth clarifying though.
Well, you got farther than I did. I couldn't even get that far. I was like, I don't know. So, okay. So we have a hypothesis. Amazing. Where I don't think Nikki's on either, but where did those Metro football funds go? Do you know the 4 organizations?
yeah, there was a staff report about that. I want to say in January or February, and I don't know
I missed
I don't
it.
remember off the top of my head, but I can find out.
Well, we approved oh, maybe I didn't get to that one. Okay. So, okay, never mind. Not important. Thank you, town staff, for the water report. Andrew Bliss, as always. Thank you so much. And I'm curious, I see the level 2 revenue coming in. What did we actually hypothesize those were going to bring in? And are we anywhere close?
No.
Okay, that's what I thought.
I think that we need to probably bring an aim to you for discussion
Okay,
about the value of those as an economic development tool and what our actual
Yeah.
cost recovery should look like just from that perspective.
yes,
Because I think there's a pretty good community benefit for them being here, even from that perspective alone.
yeah,
I know one thing and Britt's on the call too, so she can jump in if she wants, but we can set time limits where there's like a escalator fee if you stay too long on the charger, which is something we might want to consider. But like on the level 3 charger, you might have somebody here for 3 hours potentially or more. And so there is a benefit of that in our town. So we just need to figure out what that looks like.
okay.
But we can continue working on dialing those in through the budget process.
But basically, we severely overestimated how much revenue we were going to get on those.
We took off the revenue projections from 2024 were really, really high. I think where we're at is a lot closer, but we can put together a little report about that.
Okay, very cool. And that's all of my questions.
I did just want to add the level 3 charger is working, and Cass and I are working with Clean Colorado to try to do like a ribbon cutting so people actually know that it's working. But yeah, as John was saying, I'll probably be bringing an aim in the future about setting time limits as we're getting to summer. And that's done directly through the software we use now, which is really cool. So that'll come before you guys soon.
Amazing. Thank you.
Mhm.
Any other questions in the staff reports? All right, we're moving on. Board of Trustees, Mayor Billy is not here, so we'll just go down the line. I'll go next. My verbal report is not a whole lot to report other than heading to CML with John and Billy. I have two presentations that I'm doing specifically on local government and AI. But other than that, Dr. Cog, I did not get to the meeting last month. But we'll hopefully have an update for the next one. Trustee Corvalon?
Oh, sorry, I was muted. I have nothing to report. BZA has not met.
Okay, thank you. Trustee Larson?
The Boulder County Consortium meeting for June was canceled because it occurred a day after the attack in Boulder, and there was an event happening at the courthouse. The DDA meeting last week, I unfortunately was not able to attend due to work snafus. But we are getting very close at the DDA to getting the bylaws and MOU finalized for viewing by the BOT.
Excellent. All right, next on the list, Trustee Maris.
So NEPADEC had our meeting last month. We had a presentation about the Vision Zero action plan from Boulder County staff. Basically, the goal of this plan is to reduce crashes to zero, which is a very lofty goal, but that's the plan. Their team is aware of our multimodal transportation plan, and they're using it as a core building block for their plan in our area. And once the plan is final, then they'll work on fact sheets and then working towards implementation. The next step is to gather more public feedback, which they're working on organizing and gathering from the communities. They plan to finalize it for adoption by Boulder County commissioners, I believe, in August. There's a link where you can review the plan and give feedback. It's boco.org/Vision Zero Action Plan. We also got a presentation on the volunteer driver program. So Boulder County had gotten a grant for a volunteer driver program, and the town of Nederland agreed to be an administrative hub for the program. So volunteer orientation is this month, and they're starting with services in the Nederland Fire District, which is really exciting. That's it. Questions?
Sounds good. Trustee Miller.
Yeah, so we had two ProSab special sessions to work on the Prost plan. So we did, kind of two work sessions where we worked on setting kind of goals and priorities for the Prost, and we will do another reevaluation because we had a significant turnover in the team as this, wherever this breakpoints are. Next meeting was supposed to be Thursday, but that's Juneteenth, so we rescheduled it to tomorrow. But I don't think we have our new members yet. So we're in a little bit of a state of flux with the ProSab board, but we did get one actual application, and then we have our Caroline, who is our alternate, expressed a desire to become a full member. So that should give us enough to keep going, although I think just barely, because I think there'll be four of them plus me. So and we don't have a new chair yet. So a lot to kind of stabilize before we can go back and do another pass on the Prost before we can bring that forward to the board for some feedback.
Are you guys, is tomorrow's meeting about getting a chair in place, or?
Yes, I actually haven't reviewed the minutes for that
okay.
meeting yet,
That's
but
okay. That's okay.
can tell you that it is slow to open.
That's okay.
No.
We'll move on.
No, yeah, so mostly we are working on like getting the proposed priorities in order, and then we'll have some stuff to bring back to the board. So,
Okay, groovy.
Yeah.
Trustee Ty.
As far as sustainability, I wasn't able to make the meeting, so I don't have anything to report on that. But I am happy to report that we have started construction on the chairs
Oh, cool.
for youth council. All of it's stored in my shed now. But we have started construction and we will continue. I will update you on the progress.
Excellent. All right, on to the state of the town presentation. John.
I'm just pulling it up 1 second. So we've been doing this state of the town address. I think one of the questions I have is the frequency and timing that you guys would like to have it. Currently, we've had a couple. We've done one mid-year and one at the end of the year, and we can continue that frequency and timing, or we can change it. But for this one, I've changed the format that you've seen for the last few of them. And I've kind of walked through the strategic goals of 23, 24, plus the work the departments have been working on. So you guys have any questions as we go, just please let me know. If I can get it to switch, that'd be great. Okay, so I wanted to start off just kind of talking about some of the things that we've been doing. We have been very busy during 2025 from a staff perspective. All of the departments have been doing good work. In the clerk's office, we had a little bit of reorganization. I'll go through this on each of the slides and looking at our processes and procedures and just kind of updating things a little bit. In finance, we've been really working on end of the year financials. And then today, our audit was completed and it's done now and turned in. It's not due till July 31st, so I'm feeling pretty good about that. Streets team has been out. You may have seen them. They're grading roads and doing the work that happens in the summertime. They're going to start working on ditches as well, culverts, all of that kind of thing. We have done a lot of work on water and wastewater as well. They've done their hydrant flushing, which is complete now, which this is earlier than it was last year as well. And so the next big thing for them is sewer inspections. I'll walk through this all as we go. But the point is that everybody's been really busy just kind of managing the workload that we have. And then looking at some of the stuff that we have in the future. I think since I've been here especially, we've been really working on infrastructure and continuing these work plans that we have, especially for our public works teams. That work has been ongoing. I used the lens from the 2023-2024 strategic plan to kind of guide this presentation. But I wanted to tell you that we've been really working at the department head level on how we engage as a staff with the board as we kind of move into the strategic planning effort that we'll undertake this summer. This is just a reminder of what our 2023-2024 strategic plan priorities were. The first is organizational culture and staff development. And this is really involving just fostering a positive work environment, investing in our employees, and promoting a culture of innovation and collaboration. We had water rights and water infrastructure, just making sure that we're protecting our water rights, upgrading and maintaining our infrastructure to make sure that we have reliable water and quality. Sustainable and resilient development, promoting environmental friendly and climate adaptive land use policies, encouraging and renewable energy and green building. Infrastructure modernization and emergency prep, just making sure that all of our infrastructure, especially the critical pieces like roads, bridges, utilities, are taken care of, and really working with our partners on our emergency response capabilities. Financial resource expansion, looking at different revenue sources, optimizing our budget and funding strategies, and ensuring long-term financial stability. And then housing code updates based on community input, which just really revolves around housing regulations and code to make sure that Nederland remains a place that you can live, work, and play, and it remains a real community. Some highlights for my work that I've been doing this year. One of the biggest things is we've really been looking at our staff and our team, kind of our executive leadership team on the staff level, and how we work together as a group. It's really easy to have departments, I think every department sees the team below them. And I think that our teams are really strong in that way. But one thing that we've been working on is how we work together, how we do kind of like a approach cross-departmental challenges and how we really look at our capacity and our ability to provide service to this community and what those service levels look like. That's work we've been going through for about the last 3 months. We have another department head meeting to look at some of that tomorrow, and we'll continue working through that into the future. The leadership team, we've kind of changed some of the cadence of that. They're going to become more involved in some of our decision-making processes, and we're really going to be working on a higher frequency cadence. So we're doing kind of bi-weekly meetings now. They used to be monthly. I've been working a lot with Rita in terms of budgeting, capital planning, and service level coordination. We really have wanted to add some proactive planning to what we're doing for the budget in 2026 and making sure that we've got those numbers as dialed in as possible. To your point about, the chargers and things like that, and making sure that we are as accurate as we can be. In my zoning administrator role, Britt and I have been working really hard on looking at our land use policies and zoning. Early in the year, we were working on getting the comprehensive plan approved and the sub-area plan approved. Those are both done now. Planning Commission is reviewing at their next meeting some of the recommendations specific for the overlay district downtown that was recommended by the sub-area plan. We've also been doing some review of housing policy requirements that are coming from the state level and other legislative changes that'll come. And as you know, in our last meeting, we brought forward some of the Planning Commission priorities that they'd like to work on this year, and that work is ongoing. We've really been working on our compliance and just making sure that we're where we need to be on our grants, like our FEMA grant and things like that, our SRSA policies, our HR policies. A lot of that work, has to be updated incrementally, and so that work has been going on all year pretty much. It's been a kind of a big lift to make sure that we've got all the compliance needs we need as federal environment has changed a little bit. I do participate in a number of regional partnership groups, the Boulder Opioid Council, the New Affordable Housing Tax Board. I attend Consortium of Cities meetings with Trustee Larson, work with Ned Fire and ODM, and just a lot of different kinds of stakeholders throughout our community to make sure that we're kind of promoting those goals and addressing those challenges collectively. There's a number of different strategic projects with staff and other stakeholders that are happening either at the department level or around town that do benefit us. And so a lot of our work is really involved in just working with folks and bringing things forward. As you know, we just discussed the DDA bylaws and the MOU update. I've been working with the DDA and Attorney Madsen and their attorney to try to get those into a final form to bring forward to you. And then the last thing is just the transit coordination, just looking at how we partner and build programs for transit that serve Nederland. I've kind of gone through by department here, and I had them all give me kind of updates of what they're doing. Macy's here, so if you have questions for her, you can ask her. She's had a lot of things in her world. We hired a new administrative assistant, and she reports to Macy. Her name is Holly. She's at the front desk at Town Hall. She's really good, but she's kind of getting up to speed. So Macy has been really working on making sure that all our processes are put together and in good shape. We've had quite a few different marijuana, liquor, and SDR applications this year, and changes, and some complex ones too that are a little bit different. So she's been working on that. And then always it's the core things and getting ready for the election. And the big thing for her, which I think is really cool, is she's going to become a CMC credentialed clerk in July, which we're pretty excited about for her. In water and wastewater, the big thing I'd say is getting their team certified. So as you may know, Andrew is very close to becoming what's called an ORC. And an ORC is the person who's in charge of the plants. We currently pay a contractor a good chunk of money to do that work for us. But hopefully by the end of the year, he'll have that certification. His team has also been getting certified, all the different certs that go up to there. So our team is actually getting pretty strong over there. You see here, they had a 12 certification goal, and we're well on the way for that. Earlier this year, we did a grit removal project, and I would love to tell you how many tons of sand they took out of the system when they did that, but it was enough to basically restock a filter. I want to say it was tens of thousands of dollars worth of sand that they were able to recover, which was awesome. Earlier this year, we also changed the water meter that we're using and installing. It's called a Badger meter. We discussed it a little while ago with the board, but basically they're really cool. They're a cellular meter and they can be read remotely, which is great for us so we can tell if there's a leak or something. But over time, it's also going to give people the ability to see their own water use and have some control over that, which I think is really cool. So they've replaced 86 of those meters. We plan on probably trying to replace about 100 meters a year. in addition to the ones that just fail. So that's something that they're doing that's really cool. We did get the dump truck that we discussed around Christmas time, and they've been hauling biosolids now, which is saving us quite a bit of money. We're also bringing back compost for the town now, which is available and free for residents. The IGA for phosphorus control is complete with Boulder, and we've installed all the equipment. So we're removing more phosphorus from the system in an automated way, which is pretty cool. As I said, all the hydrants are done, and they're working on rebuilding a couple of the ones that need that. And then the next steps for them, I've just got a little bit of a looking ahead here. We got a close to final draft of the rate study, and that needs to come back to you for discussion. The transition in ORC is another one to look at. And then we've been looking at some billing improvements, such as going to monthly billing to make bills a little bit more understandable. So right now it's a big chunk, and it would be easier to, I think it'd just make it easier to go to a monthly system. Brit's World in community development, it's always a busy thing. We got the comprehensive plan, multimodal plan, downtown sub-area plan done, and Britt was instrumental in getting those done, which I'm thankful for having her here for that. She's been working on our housing code and ADU updates and our deed restrictions. That was some direction we had from the board, and there's also some state requirements that need to be met. So she's been working with Planning Commission on all of that. Britt now oversees our sustainability coordinator too, which is a grant-funded position right now that we've been trying to bring full-time. And the work there is working with SAB, but it's also looking at our EV chargers, our solar systems, looking at potential for new microgrids in town and working with the community on some of those goals. And Cass is the one who's been doing that work, and I think they've been doing a pretty good job. When Peter left earlier this year, Britt and Cass took on our community engagement and website project. We have a new website that's going to launch next month, which is going to be really cool. And they have shepherded that through the process. They've also been working on the Nederland Bugle and some of the work Peter was doing on Facebook and other social media, and just making sure that we're continuing to communicate with folks. And they've done a really good job of that. I think a big project for them, the IBC code update to 2024. You guys gave direction about that a few months ago. I think we're actually pretty close to a draft of that is ready for review. So that's been going along pretty well. And then the last thing is this housing collaboration work. As you know, Miranda had applied for a grant right before she left for a new housing coordinator position. And we've been working with Lions and DOLA to get that across the finish line, and we're very close, which is great. And then in Gilpin County, we have another grant with them and some of the communities in Gilpin and then Lions as well to create potentially a new multi-jurisdictional housing authority that would be a peak-to-peak oriented group. And that work is continuing. Gilpin County, their planner is just transitioning to a new role right now. So that work is ongoing, and there's a consultant running it, but I think it's in pretty good shape. In finance world, I said nearing completion, but it was accepted today, which is awesome. Rita is going to go visit Switzerland to visit her father, which is really cool. So she'll be taking a little much needed time off, which is going to be awesome. We've been working with the departments. We've already met with the community center and parks and streets and water wastewater about their capital improvement planning and some of the budget work that we need to do for next year. So we'll be in good shape for our first budget meeting when that comes in August. One thing I'd like to note, we have not, I don't think recently had a meeting with the auditor in July to kind of go through what the audit said and kind of the end of year financials, but we are planning on doing that this year to kind of kick off the budget. So we have a good understanding of, everybody understands where we were on that. Rita and I have been working on grant management. Christy's starting to help with that a little bit too. And we're just trying to, right now, honestly, finish off our grants that we have and make sure we stay in compliance with the requirements for them. The service levels thing, it really boils down to what we provide the community and the work we do every day. It's things like snow removal and grading of streets and, when the community center is open and that kind of work. And so what we're trying to do is just make sure that we're being good stewards of our financial resources and listening to the community about what those things need to be and trying to match them up as much as possible. And, part of that too is the service quality of what we do and how we offer it. Here at the community center, it's starting, the community center the use is going up here and it's great. I think we're seeing it become more of a hub of community activity. We know it's got higher usage than it has in the past. Visitation has gone up. With that, some of our needs for cleaning and other things have gone up. And so those are things that we'll probably be looking at in the budget is whether we can have the capacity to staff maybe another role to help with some of that work. They're also starting to think about the future of staff here and how we're going to staff it and what roles are necessary. We have started looking at the West Wing assessment. We've identified a couple of contractors who can do that work. We need to do an assessment of that piece of the facility just to make sure, A, if we are going to tear it down, what the challenges will have and how it needs to be done, just to make sure for things like asbestos it's taken care of. Or potentially, could we remodel it and use it for other purposes, which may be something we can do too. We have the budget to do that, and we'll be bringing that forward fairly soon. The community center continues to host events. They just hosted the Mountain Network for Peace sale, which was great. They've hosted an art sale already this year, and then there's a couple other events as we move through the year that they'll do here that are pretty big, especially as we get towards the holidays. The last thing I have here is there's just been some incremental upgrades and improvements to both the theater space and the fitness facilities. Their equipment, they've gotten a couple new pieces and repaired a couple of things, and then they just cleaned all the seats in the theater, which was a needed project. Municipal court and emergency management. Troy Hendricks, who's been our longtime emergency manager and municipal court clerk, and he was also a police officer before that, has recently left and transitioned into a new role. So we have hired a new interim court clerk. Her name is Grace, and she has been working for us in a volunteer driver capacity, but she's going to manage the position through the July court date at least. We have had a very significant load of citations in the spring, but we asked to kind of slow it down. So really focusing on, on violations that create a safety hazard is really what it is. And that work is continuing, and we're just trying to manage the workload and make sure that job is working appropriately. She's also going to be working with our judge and prosecutor to make sure court runs well in July. And we may contract with Troy just to help us with that, because there's a lot of, it's a little bit of a complex thing, and he said he'd be willing to. So that's something we're working on. In terms of emergency coordination, our emergency management plan that we were working on last year has gone through ODM. We have a couple of changes that they required, and those will be really minor things to make. And then we'll be working with Ned Fire to make sure that it all works. Those coordination efforts will continue, and I think we're, the key there is just to continue the work and make sure all the relationships are good. One of the things that we do here also, the community center, is evacuation center, and Dawn manages that program pretty well and effectively right now. In parks, one of the big highlights I wanted to mention is that Garcia Field is growing and it's looking good. I don't know if you guys have been down there lately, but the grass has grown in and it's starting to look like a field, which is nice. On Father's Day, there was arguably more people there than there were at Chipeta, which is kind of cool. It's not there yet. It needs to continue work, but I think having this super wet spring was helpful. They put some of that new compost we got that we're using from the biosolids on the field, and you can definitely tell how that has worked. And just keeping it wet has been good. So that's been a good thing. Chipeta Park has been seeing a lot of activity too. We have had some kind of repeated vandalism at the pavilion, especially in the bathrooms, that resulted in some damage to our water fountain, which is not ideal. But I think for the most part, people are respectful of that space, and it's looking good. We will have the fishing derby for kids happening there that's coming up this weekend, and that should be a really fun event. Concert series, Town Cleanup Day, both successful. I think there's been a lot of good engagement around those events, and they'll continue in the future. We have had a plan for playground updates and rink plans over the last few years. I think that those are continuing, and it's just a matter of priorities of making sure that we get the grant applications when they make sense and working with our state partners on that. But that's something that continues. And then they are working on, you guys may remember that you budgeted for them to get the new electric powered maintenance equipment that they need by state law, and they are working on that. They probably have them like this week, so that should be good. In streets, the big thing for them is they've been working on these level of service documents and their kind of communication and trust with the community. I think that's been going pretty well with them. 600 tons of road base this year is what we've done. And a lot of our roads, I think, there was a need to bring them up to a certain standard. And it's just something that happens in dirt roads and things like that, but they're doing a pretty good job. The grading program is ongoing. They're working kind of like in terms of worst to best kind of situation, but all of our dirt roads are going to both be graded and road base applied, and then they'll be crowned, which just means better water flow and easier to plow in the wintertime, which should mean better overall roads for the long term. They're also looking at our culverts and ditches. There's a lot of work that always needs to happen in there. We still have a couple of old culverts. I want to say there's 6 that need to be replaced in town. So they are working on getting that done this summer, and that should be something that really enhances our stormwater system. Major projects here, we've talked about a couple of these tonight. The first is the Big Springs egress project. We are we've been trying to bring forward a community meeting about this project, and it needs to happen in the near future. I think we're just about to the point where that can happen. Need to follow up with Ned Fire, and then I think we're probably where we need to be for that. So I think that we should expect to see that in the next few weeks. The SMS TIPS project we just talked about a little bit. It's federal grants and federal requirements are tricky, and I think basically what we did is we hired somebody who could navigate those spaces for us and get the easements that we need. Once we have those easements, we should have CDOT concurrence to put them out to bid. The SMS project is actually relatively simple. It shouldn't take much work. And our understanding is the concrete work even for the TIPS project can be done in the fall or early winter. So our contractor, which is JVA, our engineers, think that we're still in okay shape for that. But we did ask for extensions on both of those so that we could get through this summer. As Britt just told you, the EV charger, the level 3 is now operational. That was a journey, and Britt navigated that space pretty well too. Both chargers are working now and functional, so they should be useful. We've had a little bit of trouble with the L3 charger just because it has an emergency stop button, and people are pushing that instead of stopping the session, which is making it stop working, but we can figure that out. Broadband, we got that grant to do broadband middle mile here, and that work, they're working on CDOT permitting, and we expect that to begin soon. We submitted that grant for the microgrid at the wastewater plant earlier this year, and it was paused by the new presidential administration. And then the last big project we've been working on that's actually been taking a little bit of time is ADA compliance for Colorado digital accessibility. That has to happen by July. And so we've been working on a plan for that so that we can post that on our website. And then we've got a little bit of document or remediation to do and just making sure things are correct for that. So Britt, Cass, I, Nikki, and Attorney Madsen and Macy have been really focused on that. Some of the other stuff we've been doing lately, we've been working on a natural medicine moratorium that was passed earlier this year, and then the zoning for that is under review. Planning Commission is going to look at this at their next meeting, and then we would anticipate this coming to you in the second meeting in July because there's a 15-day notice period for the hearing for that. And that will just make sure that we set up our regulations according to best standards with the state and what Planning Commission recommendations are. One of the big projects that we've been doing, or we did early this year, was this NedRec transit pilot. And that was a really cool program running a transit system just around Nederland to kind of points of interest, specifically the neighborhoods, to get people to Eldora, but also just to town and places like that. And it actually was a fairly successful program. We've been working on the childcare project with Teens Inc. Our work this year is really focused around their lease and like getting their permitting done. They are substantially complete with permitting. I think the last step is the fire review that they have to finish. And then that part of the project is done. We have been looking at our bag fee ordinance. That's something that we just talked about, and we'll be continuing to work on that. We adopted that new industrial pretreatment ordinance, which allows our wastewater team to better manage what's coming into the plant, which overall will maintain its capacity much better. And then the renewed membership in CC4CA, which we just recently did, just demonstrating our commitment to sustainability. I wanted to just talk a little bit about some of the emerging strategic considerations that we might want to think about in our new strategic plan. And these things are things that have just been kind of coming up as we have been navigating this year and in our budget process last year. The first one is always a challenge, and it kind of speaks to the first strategic goal we have right now, And it's really just staff capacity versus service demand and making sure that we can meet the needs of the community. And I think we've had a couple of conversations about this since I've been here in terms of like opening the community center 7 days a week or adding, we have a need right now. We may need another water wastewater person to make sure the schedule works appropriately. And so that's like a constant, balancing thing. And it really speaks to our need to just make sure our staff is supported. So I added that here. Another thing is the visitor center, the structure of it. We had a pretty extensive conversation about the visitor center during our budget process last year. We are transitioning to a lead role at the visitor center that is open right now. It's an internal position. And that person will kind of be given a little bit more control over how things happen there. And then they'll be working with me and Rita on budgeting and purchasing and things like that, but just making sure that that remains a good, viable tool for the community. Another thing that I've got here is developing key performance indicators for our municipal activities and making sure that there's an alignment to community objectives. And this really speaks to like our staff updates that you saw today. I think that there's a need to make sure those staff updates are digestible and giving you the right information and, not diving too far into the weeds. And I think one way we could do that is just really thinking about what we're updating you on so that it's a consistent kind of report. Sustainable building and facilities planning. We have recently had a lot of things happen in building world that we need to take care of. One big thing is there's a hole in town hall roof that's about the size of a pumpkin that needs to be dealt with. We had our water heater go out and almost burn down the visitor center earlier this year. The West Wing is another issue, but just taking care of our infrastructure and planning for that. And looking how we manage these assets is, I think, something that's going to become increasingly important moving forward. I think I've got project delivery versus day-to-day operations here and just thinking about our resources and maintaining our services and where we need to go in the future. I've got the law enforcement feasibility, which we talked about a few weeks ago, just thinking about what the most sustainable service delivery model is for us and what our community needs are for law enforcement moving forward. Strategic land acquisition, we've had conversations about what this might look like for Nederland, if there is a need for more land acquisition or not. What are our long-term development and infrastructure needs and how should the town be working in that space? Government alignment across boards and staff. I think this is a really good one for us to always be focused on. Not that there's an issue or anything, but more just that we have a board of trustees that's elected and then you have several advisory boards and staff and just thinking about what those relationships look like and what our working agreements between each other are so that your advisory boards are functional and working in great space and that you guys have kind of that top level approach to everything and just making sure everything is working how it should. Water, wastewater affordability and infrastructure planning. This is going to become increasingly an important conversation for us. We do have, I'd say, a good amount of capital improvement projects in that space that we need to tackle. And we're going to have to make sure that our rates are capable of keeping up with that and that we have really good conversations about what that looks like. And so we'll be bringing that forward with you at that water wastewater rate study. And that conversation is something that will happen that we need to kind of work through during the budget season. Implementing state housing and land use laws. There has been a lot of changes at the state level that we're required to implement. And so we just need to continuously make sure we're aligned to those goals. And then the last thing I have here is AI policy development for muni ops basically. And this just really is something that it's an emerging area that we just need to be updating constantly and just making sure we're doing what needs to be done and using AI responsibly. This is really my last slide here. I know this is a little bit long. I wanted to dive into some of this work and I can answer any questions you have. But I think that just with where we are right now with this kind of like, we're kind of at the peak of the mountain between, we extended the 2023, 2024 a little bit. We are seeing the emergence of new strategic priorities coming over the next few years. And I want to just take a minute just to say, we're entering a really cool cycle for Nederland where I think we've set up a lot of pins, we've knocked them down, we're ready to set up the next set of them. There could be forks in the road that change what our strategic direction looks like. But I think that we have all the tools that we need right now from a planning perspective to really go into that work. And I'm really excited to go through it with you. I think we're primed for a good 2 years here with Nederland and that strategic plan being something that really can drive forward these community goals and vision that we've really been talking about through the comprehensive and sub-area plan. You know, as I was looking at, I'm working on the sub-area plan stuff today, and there was, the survey had over 400 responses by itself, which is pretty good for a town of Nederland size. I think we've had a lot of good feedback and we can continue that moving forward. And ultimately, that's kind of where I want to leave it, is that we're just ready for this next step. I am, if you have any questions for me, I'm happy to answer.
No questions, but thank you.
I had one quick
Like,
question
truly.
on the, you referenced the, the transportation pilot project, which reminded me of, we had that, pilot bus with, VIA, I think, and RTD to like an extra bus in the canyon. Did anything ever come of that?
I'd say it's working. The regional transportation partnership is very strong with Boulder County. The NEPADAC board is really good. We have a great board here in Nederland, and they're meeting this week, tomorrow.
This week, tomorrow.
Yeah.
But I think you mean like the extra route, is that right?
Well, it
Or
was
the
just
extra,
an extra bus,
But-
or well, it wasn't a bus, but they VIA ran
Yeah.
an extra shuttle.
I think, and I don't ride the bus that often, but I think that RTD has already added that in as
Yeah.
a regular route,
That's-
a regular,
There's
Oh, cool.
potential
Fine.
for more as well.
Oh,
They
cool.
want
Route,
the
cool,
frequency
whatever.
up.
Thank you.
The other thing to know is
Yeah.
the volunteer driver program, we've kind of completed this initial phase of it, setting things up. It may potentially move to the food network or the food pantry as operating it. Sorry. It's going to be a reality TV show now on
We're like big time now. Goodness.
but that could be a really good thing capacity wise because they have more connection to that world. But I think what the goal is to make sure that via this volunteer driver network and then the RTD stuff stays in sync so that we can provide the transit network we need.
Cool. Perfect. Thank you.
I had a question. This is Tanya.
Yeah, go for it, Tanya.
The camera's not working for some reason, but do we have any cameras at the visitor center to find out who's vandalizing?
It's at the Chipeta Park.
Yeah,
and
That's what I meant.
I-
Sorry, at the bathrooms. Yeah.
that's what I was thinking too. I was going to bring that up, having a camera there.
I think that's
It'd be
probably a good
really
idea.
cool.
We probably could at least get a trail cam is probably the best thing. So I'll
Yeah.
talk to Nikki about that.
Yeah, it'd be nice to find out who's doing it. And I want to thank you. It's a great report.
Thank you, Tanya.
Any other questions, thoughts for town manager John?
Not just for John, but just massive kudos to yourself and the entire town. I mean, the
A lot
amount
of
of
work.
projects taken on over 6 months is, given it's a mid-year, is incredible.
The community is great. I mean, we have such a great, strong community here, and I think it pulls together really well. And so I agree. I want to thank the town too and our staff. They've been through, I mean, it's been a long transition this year. And I think honestly, I got here on July 8th was my first day. And so we're almost to a year, which is cool. But in that time, I was just looking at even our BOT agendas, and I know they've been a little bit lighter the last few, but we have tackled a lot. And I think some projects that were taking a while too. So we're going to keep that work going. And I think it's all about trust for us. And we just want to make sure we're being good stewards of the town. And we'll continue to try to be as aligned to you as possible. And I think we're all excited for that work right now.
I see you guys really out there doing a lot, and yet they all still have smiles on their faces whenever I see them. So
One more thing to tell you really fast. So we just did a exercise. There's this book I really like about organizational development. It's called Scaling People, and it's written by the woman who started Stripe, basically. And it's about how you show up for your team and then how your team shows up together. And it kind of has this progression. But the first step is just saying, who are you and what's important to you and why do you do the work you do, essentially. And everybody, to a T, talked about their teams, that they have and supporting them, but also supporting the town and how much they love this place and how important their work is to them. And I thought that was a really cool thing. So
that's good to hear.
Okay. Thank you so much, John. Really appreciate it. And to the rest of the town staff, amazing work. All right, we're moving on to our one and only action item. I'm reading this
I'll
correctly.
be presenting it. Cass is at a conference.
Okay.
Yeah, so we're excited that she gets to do that. But yeah, so we brought forward the final ordinance 877 for you tonight. As you guys know, Cass has kind of been presenting to you guys. We have some smaller retail stores that are wanting to pay by credit card, or even by check, but they have these really small dollar amounts. And so we wanted to give those individuals the opportunity to pay annually. So as you'll see, the specific draft language for that, Jennifer had put the definition for small retail collectors, but the specific language says, however, small retail collectors may remit the disposable bag paper bag fee annually by January 15th for each year. For the purpose of this section, a small retail collector is defined as any retailer owing less than $5 in fees for any given quarter. Small retail collectors are still required to complete and submit the disposable bag paper bag fee forms on a quarterly basis. So that is presented to you tonight. It's really simple. I think we've been to you a couple of times, but really wanting to have that quarterly report so they don't forget at the end of the year and it's kind of not like this made up number, but then giving them the opportunity to have that credit card option and be able to pay those on January 15th annually. Let me know if you have any questions or concerns about that language.
Britt, can I ask you just kind of a practical question? So let's say first quarter, it's $10 and they remit that payment, and then second quarter is $4. So then is it the rest of the year that they don't have to pay till January 15th? So
That's a
they paid
good-
first quarter, or sorry, am
Yeah.
I
No,
explaining
no,
that
that's a
correctly?
good question. I would think that's how it would go. I don't know, Jennifer, if you have any thoughts on that.
I think it's a quarter by quarter decision
Mhm.
based on the way that the language is written, that there's small collector if they have less than $5
Yeah.
in a quarter.
So you become a small
Yeah.
retailer. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you might pay the
Get
first
flat.
quarter and then you don't for the rest of the year. Yeah. So it changes every
Yes.
quarter. Perfect.
Yes.
Yeah, and I would say most of these retailers that have small amounts have under $5, and so I doubt that we'll see that, but I think that's a very good question to ask.
Thanks, Britt.
In other words,
Yeah,
they're
thank you.
consistently under $5 if they're under
Yes.
$5. Sure. Great. Any other clarifying questions? All right, we're going to move to public comment. Seeing none in the room, is there any public comments online? Raise your hand. Don't be shy. All right, seeing none online, we'll bring it back to the board for discussion and or a motion.
And there is motion language on the AIM for anyone who needs it.
Thank you, Brett.
Yeah.
And this looks exactly like we discussed at our last meeting, so
I would say so. Should be pretty easy.
no one stops me. I move to approve ordinance 877, an ordinance of the Board of Trustees of the Town of Nederland, Colorado, amending certain sections of Article 7 of Chapter 7 of the Nederland Municipal Code concerning plastic single-use bag and polystyrene pollution reduction.
Second.
Let's take roll.
Trustee Ty,
Yes.
Trustee Maris,
Yes.
Trustee Miller,
Yes.
Trustee Larson,
Yes.
Trustee Corvalon,
Yes.
and Mayor Pro Tem Sterling.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion's approved.
Thank you. All right. Seeing no more action items on the agenda, let's go to public comment on non-agenda items, please. There is no one in the room, so if there's anyone online who has a public comment on non-agenda items, please raise your hand. Wow. We might get out of here within an hour. Okay. Other business. Any other business that somebody would like to bring forward? just for giggles, I did look up how much we projected EV2 chargers to make. In 2024, we projected that the revenue was going to be $116,000 and $116,800. $116,000. But it was expected to be reduced to $58,400 due to one charger being dedicated to the car share program. That was the thing. I don't know if for those of us who were there. And level 3 chargers, the revenue was projected to be $97,333. In 2025, the revenue forecast for level 2 chargers remained at $58,400, while the level 3 chargers were expected to generate revenue as they would be operational following the completion of electrical upgrades. So we are trending at $5,000 for the year for our EV chargers. So this just, it's always good little education for us.
Where did
why-
those estimates come from?
Yeah, where did the first ones come from?
Where did the estimates come from?
Yeah.
Estimates, like it was based off kilowatt hours, and we're like, oh, well, surely somebody would say it, use it this amount of time. In fact, I believe in my first query, it was estimated to be about 6 hours of charging per day for the level 2 chargers at 40 cents per kilowatt. And then that was projected to be at 116,800.
So is
Yeah.
nobody using them?
No,
Well-
it's just that they're using them much, much less.
Part of the problem is we picked the, just to say it nicely, I guess we picked the very best of the level 3 charging company infrastructures. It's a company based in Spain, and fixing it to make it work was a significant process. So it wasn't open as much as it could be. And the other thing is I think like the rate structure it does limit it a little bit. So I think like especially on the level 2 ones are not going to charge a car. I mean, I have a Jeep hybrid and it'll charge mine in like 2 hours, but a real EV would take forever on it. So you don't see the same usage, but
Yeah, and I think we just grossly as the board overestimated. I mean, we had said for the level 2, 6 hours of charging per day. Do those level 2 chargers get used every day?
they do, but not I would say not all day. Like
But not
they're-
all day.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we kind of overestimated the amount of charging per day, and then yeah, the level 3s. We'll wait to see. I think it's a good lesson on being on that original board and making those estimates that you don't really know until you light them up, and you should really just be conservative in your estimates.
The other thing that's happening is the charging standard is changing to a universal plug in theory, and that could help too because Teslas are limited in what they can do right now, and so that's one of the more frequent cars you would see. So
So anyway,
can I make one more point to you guys really quickly?
yes.
I was just trying to make sure I had the information about the Metro Football Funds, and I have it. The aim, if you're interested, it was on November 12th, so it's a little ways ago. But there were, just to kind of the summary, the town received 21,760 in Metro Football Funds. After we had gone through the program, there was a process of application, and 5 applications were submitted. 13,540 was awarded in 2024 to Peak Endurance, Wild Bear Mountain Movers, and the Nederland Community Library. There's an additional $8,700 to be distributed in 2025, which will allow other nonprofits to apply or reapply for the funding. We did get an application. The other one was from Teens Inc., but the application didn't fit the purpose of the grant. So that's why there would be another application.
Oh, that's right. Okay. Good. Okay. Groovy.
I move to adjourn.
Second.
Third.
We'll take it. Macy.
Trustee Miller,
Yes, please.
Trustee Corvalon,
Yes.
Trustee Ty,
Oh, yeah.
Mayor Pro Tem Sterling.
Yes.
Trustee Maris.
Yes.
And Trustee Larson.
Yes, indeedy.
Thank you. The meeting's adjourned at 7:55 PM.
All right.
All right, good night.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Thank you.